again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Brown's Latest. I'm Dave Grendzynski, and this is where you can stop in and get caught up on some of the latest news that involves our favorite team in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. And then not only that, you'll get a take tied to each of those news items, not just from me, but also from our viewers down in the viewer comments section. We will mention some of them at the end of the show. Thank you to everyone who has liked our episodes and has subscribed to the channel. And then, as I mentioned, thank you to everyone who gets into the viewer comment section and makes their voice heard. I really appreciate it. Now, coming up on today's show, the Browns will pump up the pound this season, and I think it's a push to get back to the team's heyday. How about this? We have now learned why one AFC North rival passed on one of our rookie quarterbacks, but I will tell you, you should take their opinion with a grain of salt. How about, and then, did one of our wide receivers expose who QB1 is already? We're going to let you know. And then in the viewer comments, what one viewer says that Denzel Ward must do before the season begins. But first, the Dog Pound redelivered. It is the 40th anniversary of the Dog Pound. And for those of you who may not know, this is the section of the stadium where the fans sit and bark and wear the masks and everything. It really was a big part of our identity back in the day. And it was started by Hanford Dixon. And here we go. Let's look at the history of the Dog Pound. Originated in 1985. It was Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield, who played cornerback for the Browns back then. They were barking at, it was actually started at training camp when they were still at Lakeland Community College. That's how long ago. It was before Berea. And they just kind of did it to get their teammates riled up and raring to go. And then they encouraged the fans to do it too at games. And so that's where the barking all started, and that's where the dogs started. And then that eventually led to the Dog Pound, which has developed a reputation for being one of the most raucous and loyal fan sections in the NFL. Now, it was, but I think we've lost some of that. But this is why I think the Browns are doing it. I think we're trying to get back to this. And listen, there's the one Hanford said. He says, the Dog Pound in our heart just holds a special place there. He says he really appreciates the Browns, Dee and Jimmy Haslam, and the NFL for keeping it going. He says it's really something special to him, and it means a lot. The celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Dog Pound means a lot. Hopefully, in some kind of way, it can light a fire under the team, and especially the defense, and get them going a little bit. And that's honestly what I think is happening here. So what they're going to do is, they're going to have like on September 21st when they play the Packers, it's going to be Dog Pound XL. They're calling this whole thing Dog Pound XL for the 40th anniversary, and they're going to be doing each home game. There'll be a Dog Pound related thing going on, and it's just they're really just trying to bring the Dog Pound back. I think the luster was lost in the current stadium when they built what is now Brown Stadium. Like in the old Municipal Stadium, you had that designated. It was the bleachers for back then the Indians games. So you had that bleacher section. And it was just really, it's its own designated area. And it was right up at the back of the end zone, and the players would go running up there and jumping in there and everything. It was just it was something special. That was the heyday. And they're already talking about when they build the new Dome Stadium in Brook Park, they'll have a redesigned and enhanced Dog Pound. So I think, maybe they noticed that, I just don't think the Dog Pound has been a part of, what we've been doing here for the last 20, 30 years, just since this new stadium has been around. And so I think this is an effort to get back to that. And I think the guy who could lead this is Denzel Ward. Local guy, hometown. He's from here, hometown kid, went to Ohio State, drafted by the Browns. He's our best corner, one of the best corners in the league, the best corner in the division. I think he can help really spur this, man, and get them dogs barking again. Get the team going, get the fans going. Let's bring it all back. Let's get back to that heyday of when we had the Dog Pound up and running back in the day with Hanford and, Mighty Minnie. I think it's great. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to do it. the 40th anniversary, and I hope to see the dog pound just revitalize and become part of this team's identity again, because I think we've kind of lost it over the years. And so with the way this defense is going to play, I think this would be the perfect opportunity to bring that dog pound mentality, the dog mentality back. And I don't know, I'm just recommending Denzel Ward. Why not? He'd be the perfect guy to do it. So, okay. So, listen to this. We found out why the Steelers passed on drafting Shedeur Sanders. At least this is the opinion of a Steelers insider named Ray Fittipaldo. He works for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And so, listen to what he said. Here's the quote. He said, this was on an appearance with 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. He said, I think mostly it had to do with that they didn't have a grade on him within the first 5 rounds. I think the second part of that question, and this was never really discussed, you've seen some leaks with the other teams across the NFL. Now, a lot of people just don't want to deal with Deion Sanders and what might be down the road after he's done at Colorado. So I don't know if the Steelers felt the same way, but they did not have a top 5 round grade on Shedeur Sanders, and that's why they went the route they went. The route they went was they took Will Howard late in that draft. And we talked about Will Howard. I mean, he won the national championship with Ohio State, and right now he's their backup. They don't have any ask because they went out and got Aaron Rodgers. But here's what I will say. Yes, are the Steelers, are they better than us every year? I mean, they have been. But here's the thing. Their track record on quarterback really isn't much better than ours since Roethlisberger. If you go and look at it, I mean, who have they drafted or who have they picked up? I mean, listen, I went back and looked at somebody. Now, remember, they took Kenny Pickett. I mean, everybody has something, but it sounds to me like Pickett was misused. And we're going to get into tomorrow, on tomorrow's show, how I think the Browns are going to use Kenny Pickett to set him up to win. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So I think he may have been misused in Pittsburgh. Terry Bradshaw said the same thing. But you're talking about guys like Tommy Maddox, Charlie Batch, of course, Justin Fields, who couldn't read a defense coming out of college. The only thing he's got is his legs. Russell Wilson, at the end of his, like that was, bringing him in. Landry Jones, people like that. It's like. And now they drafted Will Howard, but I don't. It's not like they're drafting a great quarterback every year. So whoever does their grading doesn't seem like they know what they're talking about. And man, oh man, wait until they find out how badly they whiffed on Shedeur. That is going to be great. So that's all. Take that with a grain of salt. If the Steelers didn't have a higher than 5th round grade on them, come on, man. Come on. Okay, speaking of our quarterbacks, did one of our wideouts already expose QB1? Deontay Johnson was on an episode of The Comeback. And when the quarterback situation came up, he just simply said, I think they're going to roll with Pickett for right now. And so, Johnson was at mandatory minicamp, of course, and he saw what was going on and what was going on behind the closed doors, too. And so that's where I think we're going, folks. I think we're heading that way. I think it's going to – we've been saying this for weeks. Everything we see and everything we hear tells us it's Kenny Pickett's job to lose, the week 1. Whether or not he retains it and holds on to it, and for how long, will remain to be seen. But I think they are doing everything they possibly can to make Kenny Pickett the starter week 1, and then you'll have Joe Flacco there as a bit of a safety net. Or if one of the rookies take off, maybe they'd step in. But that's where we're at, folks. Deontay Johnson, I think that was one of those oops moments like Chad Ochocinco had a couple of weeks ago. But he says, I think they're going with Kenny Pickett right now. So we have to believe him. And again, tomorrow we will get into how I think the Browns will use Kenny Pickett to set him up to win, and why I think they like him so much. Now, another thing that we like are viewer comments, and they're hot as the summer heat. I don't know if you're in Cleveland or Northeast Ohio right now. It's like the feels like temperature is like 106 for the next few days. So the viewer comments are as hot as that, and we're going to start today with 009, who says they being the Browns, invested in 2 quarterbacks. Most definitely one of them is starting in week 1. He said, if the first doesn't live up to the standards, insert number 2. If they both fail, it's the Archie Manning sweepstakes. And then he said, develop the one you like the best, and then the most talented one you trade. Well, here's the thing. I think the Archie Manning sweepstakes is just a fantasy right now. There's not even any, we don't even know if he's coming out next year. And we've mentioned it before. And this is like, I've talked to people in the league and, connected to teams. And it's like players, they want to win, folks. And don't forget, Stefanski and Barry, who we like to call Baranski, they're playing for their jobs too this year. Like if they have another 3-win season, there's a good chance they're all out. And so, I mentioned this before. I think they're winning more than 6 games. 6 or more is what I think they're winning this year. And so, did you see the Madden ratings? We're at like 82. We're like in the top 10 or something like that. The Madden ratings, even Madden 26 knows how good the Browns are going to be this year. So, I'm telling you, folks, with this defense, could be a pretty special season. Oh, by the way, speaking of the quarterbacks and Shador and Dylan Gabriel, anyway, did you see Shiloh on his podcast walking across the street? And he said, you got to be careful crossing the street, especially if Shador's around busting his chops. Well, it's nice to see the brotherly love, going on. Just reminds me like me and my brothers. Like my one brother, he was like a double major in chemistry and political science. He was like I don't know. He wasn't really one. We always kidded he wasn't one of us because the rest of us were a bunch of dumb jocks. And so like when he come home from college on break, we'd always ask him, we thought he was in witness protection. And so we'd always ask him, are you going to get to see your real family or is it just us? And so I just like, I kind of like the brotherly chops busting. I appreciate that. So good job by Shiloh there. All right. Scott Zappa, 9314, says, I see no reason why this D can't be pretty fearsome. He said they combine that with a competent offense. You never know. Every position group is pretty loaded. And then he throws in, no, Pickett will not start. So everybody's got their opinion. Just goes back and forth. And everybody. But yeah, I'm with you on the D. We don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation, but I am 100% with you on the D. Yeah, this defense could be pretty special. Okay, here we go. This is what we teased at the beginning. Frank Dash, which is just more password than YouTube handle. Frank Dash B8I10 says Denzel needs 10 more pounds. Yeah, the biggest thing with Denzel, and I've always said this, is when he's on the field, he is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but he's hurt so often. It's hard to keep him on the field. We've got to keep him on the field, and if adding 10 pounds is what does it, I'm all for it. All right, Steve Jackson, 3041. If carrying 4 or 5 quarterbacks, it won't be fine. No Watson. The Browns will have to lose a couple of players on defense. Won't be 6 corners. They won't. I said, they're pretty deep. They could go 6 if they want. He says, won't be 6 corners unless a couple of them can play safety and play corner at the same time. And remember, we talked about it. We heard Brandon Lynch talk. He said that the cornerbacks coach had said that they're looking for guys who can play both because of injuries. And so they've run into situations before where they, needed help at safety or vice versa. Because the guy gets hurt during a game or something, and so they're looking for that. And he talked about that during mandatory minicamp. That's one of the things that they're trying to find in all of their players. And then we're going to end on Coma Pime, who says, "This is the most unbiased Browns podcast. Great content." Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I always strive for actual and factual, and I will tell you this. The only bias we will ever show on this show is against the Steelers. All in good fun, though. But, yeah, that's the only bias you'll get. We'll pick on the Steelers as much as possible on this show. So, all right, that's going to do it for today. Remember, tomorrow, we're going to explain how I think the Browns will use Kenny Pickett to set them up to win, and how Kenny Pickett can take us through the playoffs. It's coming tomorrow. Get ready. Hold on to your... Get your popcorn ready, folks. Call Terrell Owens. All right, that's going to do it. Go Browns. We'll see you next time.